Good afternoon. We want to welcome everybody to this recording of the Patriotic Dragon Radio Show. A radio show to bring back honest, open, thoughtful conversation back to our local airwaves. This week's show is sponsored by the North Georgia Young Republicans from the University of Georgia and Brenau College. As always, the opinions and discussions on the show are those of the guests and not necessarily the Pickens County GOP, WYYZ, or the sponsor. I want to introduce our guest this week, Jerry Nechvatal, Economic Development Director. Jerry, nice to have you on.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate it.
All right. And our panelists this week, starting always to my far right, Bill Cagle, Jim Harris, and to my far left, David Leister.
Ouch.
But David did make it out of Baltimore before the riot started, but he did rouse it up, I'm sure, in his old neighborhood. So
I'm sorry it wasn't a riot. It was just a public display of distrust for the system.
And probably the most open trial in Baltimore in the last 35 years.
Yeah.
All right. Glad to have you back. Glad you made it back below the Mason-Dixon line. So, Jerry, again, appreciate you being on this week. And what I like to do, and I'm sure you get this, and I know you have chamber meetings, that type of thing, is just kind of give us a state of the county economic report from your standpoint, if you would.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. And I think overall, if you look at the data that is typically used to indicate the economic condition of a community, I think Pickens County and the city of Jasper is in really good shape. Of course, now we all know people that need a job and are in difficult circumstances, so, I think that it goes without saying. But if you look at our unemployment rate, right now we stand at 5.1%, and you compare that within the Northwest Georgia region, and we probably right now have one of the lowest, if not lowest, unemployment rates. Some information just recently came out that also indicates that we have, actually by a significant margin, the highest per capita income rate within the 15-county Northwest Georgia region. So when you look at the indicators, a lot of things are very positive. Based on many of the opportunities that are currently in the pipeline that should come to fruition in 2016, especially for this time of year. I think 2016 is going to be a very positive year for us. I think it's going to be a year where we start catching up with some of the metro counties where we're seeing more growth in terms of residential, maybe a bit of commercial. So overall, again, I think the community is moving in a very positive direction. I think 2016 will accelerate that, and overall, I'm very pleased where we are at this point in time.
Okay. All right. Anything that you'd like to add to it, Jim, or ask?
We were talking before the
well, you can't do that. You have to share with the listening public. You're supposed to talk about football.
I'm asking for the 50% tax reduction across the board. So
okay. That is an economic zone. We need to work on that.
Well, I have heard the issue about business coming to this county. And one of the comments I got from one business I was talking to was that it's expensive to build here. Do you all get that sense? Cost prohibitive to install a business up here?
Were they specifically what? There's about the physical
manufacturing business.
I don't think that we are extraordinarily expensive in terms of building costs. There are some areas where I think the property could be a bit expensive.
They were mentioning that since the access to that local county airport, that they can fly their shuttle planes out of there for their products that go up north to the automobile manufacturers. So they want to be close to that. And I sense that development out there already. I think the prices have went up a little bit.
Well, and I would love to sit across the table from them, because if you look at the property that many years ago was referred to as the Airport Technology Park, kind of a long story on it. Ultimately, during the downturn, it went back to the bank. It was purchased by an investment group out of New York that is currently very active in trying to market and sell the property. And the price, when I look at it, I think it's very, very reasonable. In fact, we are currently working with them to get the water and sewer over there was never completed, although the access is there. So we're working on figuring out exactly what it's going to take to get them connected, and therefore really very in a very good position to accommodate some new industry.
I think so. I told them that the economic development people in this county, which is you, should be involved in that, and that's what I told them to go see. But I got a sense that this business climate in total right now is still not out of the woods yet, so I think they're just delaying doing what they want to do now.
Yeah, and there's there's still some issue with our proximity to Metro Atlanta. I mean, we have good accessibility in terms of roads and good connectivity, but we are still considered a little bit on the edge from a transportation and distance standpoint.
Hey, Bill, anything you want to thoughts or? I know you always have thoughts. 'Cause I saw the eyes rolling, so I know you're thinking about something.
Well, thinking pose right now.
That's it.
Maybe a little bit later on. My question will be more appropriate later on in the show. But
Okay.
no, I think that these people that Jim was referring to, I don't know if they're looking at old property values from 7-8 years ago, maybe, or what. But now, real estate here, especially along 515. I mean, if some of the figures I hear are correct, I mean, it's like, is there oil, gas, gold, and diamonds on it, or what? I mean, because it's cheaper south of here, and it's, of course, I know you don't. That has nothing to do with you, Jerry, but
Yeah.
That's the developers and property owners and what have you. But I think that is a deterrent to certain things. I know because I'm in the construction industry. Some people have said, "Man, I've priced some land up there," and it's like, yeah.
If people just look at some of the things that are very heavily advertised, we'll say, and not through like economic development channels like the chamber website, but the big signs on the side of the road, I think that they're looking at the premium properties. If they are willing to spend some time with us, and certainly again love to sit across the table, but there are numerous options for all types of industries that I think are extremely competitive. But you have to go seek it out a little bit.
Right.
You have to peel back the curtain a little bit. But it's there.
That's good.
If somebody's planning to do a move like that, would it be better to see you first as opposed to some of the realtor people around that do this kind of business?
Well, I would suggest that they start with me because I don't have a stake in the transaction.
Yeah.
So I'm very unbiased where
Maybe some of that scares them away a little bit.
It could. Now, so ultimately, if the property is being marketed by a real estate person, that connection will have to be made. But often what I do is someone will come up, they're interested in locating or at least seeing what we have to offer, and we go out and we do a windshield tour. So I drive them all over the community. I talk about what's available. Sometimes price enters into it. I really try to sell first and then negotiate later.
Yeah.
So that's the type of service that I can provide, and again, would love to have that opportunity to help bring these companies here.
Well, we spoke before on previous shows that water is the big issue, but with some of these industrial areas or industrial builds, it's not just water; it's the sewage,
Right.
and that's the I see as the big issue in bringing in any kind of manufacturing in. You can supply the water to a degree, but what do you do with the waste?
Well, and that's a very good point, because I think traditionally people in our area, because our resources, water resources, have been limited, but really the city and the county has done a pretty good job of doing some interconnections and entering into agreements. So we're really not limited significantly because of water, but you're absolutely right about sewer. That is somewhat of a limiting factor, although with package treatment and some other options, even today, there's very few industries really that are heavy in terms of producing sewage. Most of it's just domestic. So on a startup, you could even sometimes do a package treatment or something else to get them off the ground while the growth then goes out to the area. And I think the community has done a good job of supplying sewer up and down 515, which is our major commercial corridor.
And I know the city of Talking Rock had looked at that package before, because of, they're so small they couldn't build their own. So I know that for a manufacturing plant, one of those would be effective. But what are we going to do to get them in? Our perspective as a group before was 515 is the development zone, and we appreciate the west staying agricultural and the east part, just trying to maintain itself.
Here's the limiting factor as it relates to the larger type of industrial opportunities, and it's really, I'll call it a couple-fold in terms of issues. One is that typically when a industry comes to the state and the state handles the project, more often than not, they are looking for an existing building, and they're looking for an existing building that is modern in terms of high ceilings, 28 to 32 feet. They're also looking for a large footprint. 100,000 square foot building in today's world is kind of a small building. Yeah. And with our topography, it's a little bit difficult to have those types of facilities in our area without the expense of preparing the dirt, making it not competitive. The other thing is they're looking for spec buildings. They often have a short timeline. They want to move in quickly. And we've had conversations within the Economic Development Council, which is the body that oversees me and the direction of economic development in our community. We've discussed the possibility of doing a spec building. The challenge that we have with that, again, couple-fold, but one of the significant ones is the expense. Other communities, larger communities, will go out and they will, through their development authority, they'll go and put up a building, and they'll carry the cost of that building, and it may turn quickly or it may sit vacant for years and years. But there is a cost to that. And again, our community, when you're talking about 29,000 people total, and really a pretty low property tax rate and tax rates overall, we don't have a lot of later. I'm sure we will. But the truth of it is, again, across the board, it's a very low rate compared to adjoining counties. But again, the bottom line for us to go out and say, okay, we're going to incur a couple $1 million cost, and the county or the city is going to have to carry that cost, and we have no idea if we're going to fill somebody up or put somebody in there in a reasonable amount of time. That's a difficult proposition to sell in our community. And our leaders, our community leaders and elected officials have been very, very judicious about spending people's money. And again, that's a tough sell right now. So a couple of things make it difficult, but there are areas that we can be competitive in. Some of the smaller ones, we had a private investor about a year or two ago now that came and bought the old shoe plant. They've turned it into flex space. They've renovated it. They've cleaned it up. Right now we have 4 companies in there. And there's about 3 in the pipeline, and it looks like fairly soon that building's going to be filled up, and that is with good paying jobs where people can go to work every single day. So we do have areas that we can be competitive in. There's areas that we just can't be competitive in, and that's the nature of any community.
And kind of along that same line, that I believe that same developer is working on some acquisition of some other properties, or the gentleman out of Woodstock. If you can give us any kind of an update on kind of what the status on that possible movie theater restaurant complex.
The one that I've been dealing with firsthand is a group that owns a theater in Blairsville, and they purchased property kind of across from the Quick Trip and sort of behind the old Lawson Chevrolet facility. There's a house up on that hill.
Right. Across from the recycling.
Exactly. And you get behind there and it flattens out. And one of the things that they actually bought the property, it's been over a year ago now, maybe 2. And so I've worked with them quite some time, been in communication with them. Long story short, they were looking at doing a traditional multi-screen type theater. that would serve a local market, and that'd be a wonderful thing. They also were looking at doing a drive-in theater, and that would serve more of a regional market. I kind of like that because I think you get the direct benefit as well as indirect benefit, because if you look at all the people in the summertime going up to Blue Ridge to the drive-in there, they bring a lot of money into the area. So my position was I would support whatever they felt was going to be the most beneficial to them, and because I didn't see a downside to either scenario. So as we speak, they are moving towards a two-screen drive-in. They have engaged the services of an engineering company to start the plan. And one of the things that was kind of mentioned in the newspaper a while back, that there was no permits. Well, permits, are not going to be pulled until a plan is complete. So not having plans at the office does not indicate that they are moving forward or not moving forward. But trust me, they're moving forward. Now, there was some information that went out about a developer that was looking at the Lawson Chevrolet facility. Again, interviewed with the paper, outlined some very nice plans, had communications with him, and I'll just say it looks like the things that he was proposing and talking about were not as solid as maybe was indicated. And these things can be kind of fluid. So, we'll have to see what transpires. But again, the one that I know, because I've had firsthand involvement, is with the group that has the existing theater and is right now planning to do a two-screen drive-in.
Interesting.
Well, I heard that some of the people in the planning and zoning are difficult to deal with. Have you found that to be true?
That's in the city.
Well, that's
Not the county. That's the city.
See, that makes 27 times we've heard that on this show.
well, you have two departments. You have the county that has jurisdiction within the county areas. You have the city, and I'm sure on any given day somebody might be having a bad day, but by and large,
anyone present? Are you pointing at anyone in particular?
Every day's a bad day.
Yeah. Can we? Do you want to elaborate on that? Or is that enough comment on that particular topic?
Yes, no.
Okay.
But Eric Walmer, if you're listening, we definitely are looking forward to having you on the show and talk about some successes in a city environment and how you can expand. That kind of rolls us into the next question that I've got. In what are we doing from the development standpoint, county, chamber, and everything, to attract new businesses to the downtown corridor as well as 515? I understand there's been some, hopefully some final plans made with a group, I believe, out of Roswell-Alpharetta area. So can you tell us anything or give us an update on what we're doing focused on that? We hear about revitalizing downtown. Where are we at?
Well, a couple things there. And, we have information available through the Chamber website under the Economic Development tab that gives some information in terms of kind of an overview of the community, some demographics. But even armed with that, in today's world, companies looking to move into your area don't rely on that. They like to go out and find their own information, and there's an abundance of it. Many of the larger organizations, they subscribe to services. So the starting point is to, again, market your community to the degree that you can through the website. But the real key is when somebody shows an interest is to work hard to try to sell them on coming in. So having said that, right now we do have a couple of different opportunities in the works that is looking very positive in terms of coming into the downtown area. As far as other things that we've done, the effort by the Downtown Alliance Committee of the Chamber of Commerce and getting the city of Jasper to agree to fund this traffic enhancement study, I think is a tremendous step in the right direction, because it addresses not only some of our traffic and parking issues. Along with that, we have some connectivity in terms of walking. We have some architectural, not in depth or burdensome, but we do have some architectural directions that we would like to head in to preserve the look and feel of the community as things grow. Also, when you look within the central business district, there's a lot of difference between what Main Street looks like in maybe a given direction. So we want to expand the look and feel of the Main Street. We want to make it more friendly for people walking. The golf cart path that the mayor announced at the city council, I think, is tremendous. When you look at Peachtree City, I've always just admired Peachtree City. Wanted to live there. It's not, always was on the wrong side of Atlanta for me. But I think these steps make our community very enticing to people, and I think, again, the steps that we are taking will make it even more so and will help us grow and create that momentum. And for every new business that comes in, especially on Main Street, when it's a restaurant or something like that that people typically will drive to, it creates synergies, it creates critical mass, and again, feel very positive about the direction that we're heading, especially with, and I don't want to say things that I shouldn't, but there is a company, there is a established restaurant that is looking at the Napa building, and I think it would be just a great addition to the downtown, and I think it would, have benefit beyond just that specific business because, again, the synergies and critical mass.
Unless we're going to keep the city in its quaint, small environment that it's in now, don't we have a lot of infrastructure worries if you put in restaurants, you got to have some place to park. Mm-hmm. You can't do that downtown now. You can go downtown on Saturday night and you can't find a place to park.
Right, and this is a couple of different things. The mayor has been talking about beyond the north side of the Woodbridge. There's some property there. He's been having conversations with the railroad to acquire some of that property to actually put in more parking. But also, we have a lot of underutilized parking, and we have a lot of underutilized areas within the city that's in close proximity. And some of it is just out of habit. People tend to just try to go on Main Street and park there, and if there's nothing there, they get frustrated. But I also feel we went to Alpharetta, and we toured with this engineering company that we've entered into an agreement with, and they called it inviting walkway. So when you do go down a side street, you don't feel like you're going into another environment. The look and feel is the same. So perception in terms of parking and walking and connectivity is important. So again, I do think we have a real problem with parking. I think we also have a perception problem with our parking and a underutilization problem, and these will all be addressed through that study, and that's why it's so important.
Yeah. When I think of the downtown area and the parking issue, because my wife and I go to 61 Main on a fairly regular basis, the old Roper property is still sitting vacant. The property adjacent to it, where the old dealership was, is actually a parking lot. I mean, so application-wise, it's been that before, and it sits there with a chain link fence up around it. And I would hope that as we're looking at some of those things, whether it's a lease situation or an acquisition situation, there could be those things, and that's more than reasonable distance to walk to the main drag, that type of thing. So
there is, and one of the things, not to beat the subject too much, but Will, that I do want to point out, and during the day, for example, like a parking area for the courthouse was constructed. But if you look, there's no signage that directs people to that parking area. Now, not everybody's going to follow the signs, but a percentage will. So we have some low-hanging fruit that we can take advantage of, and we're going to.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, if you look at Canton, if you look at LJ, and you look at Jasper in between, I mean, a lot of people go to Canton for the mall down there to eat. They've got a lot of restaurants down there. In LJ, they've got that one along the highway, got multiple restaurants. We have a few out here on the highway, but downtown, the restaurants are not well served because nobody can seem to get to them, or they don't know about them.
But and I mean, that's something that kind of, as we talked about the restaurants, the survey, we've seen and had feedback on some surveys that, we've seen to indicate some major lack of restaurants, clothing stores and shoe stores. I know there's been some restaurants in the downtown corridor and the downtown area. Why do if we've still got that shortcoming of that type of establishment, why do we feel like they continue to fail? So, and what are we doing to make sure, to our best ability, that they don't?
Well, the harsh reality is, if you look at the restaurants that have not succeeded, and you compare them to the ones that have. The ones that have, the food is excellent, the service is excellent, the pricing is reasonable, the ambiance, the feel inside the restaurant is good. The ones that have not lasted, there's been reasons for that. And the Chamber of Commerce does reach out to these businesses and try to help them and give them advice and direction. But, I think most of us looking around the table, we're probably over 30 years old, and all of us probably feel very confident in our abilities as it relates to our jobs. So for somebody to come to you and say, you need to do this, this, and this, sometimes people don't want to accept that. So, you can only do so much. So again, I think the places, and because we're small, I mean, there's not a lot of room for mediocrity. Yeah. So the places that just really are kind of marginal, they don't last very long, and it is unfortunate. Mm-hmm. But through time, these things will be rectified. These places will fill up, and the trend that we're on right now, I mean, again, you look at the successful ones, 61. They've been successful for a long time.
Yeah,
the Last Catch in their new location. I mean, they've done tremendous.
Oh yeah, it's leaps and bounds.
I hesitate to throw names out there because I don't want to leave anybody out. But even like Home outside of Big Canoe, I don't know how many in our community have been out there yet. I mean, it's wonderful. Again, they have all the right ingredients, good food, good prices. Mm-hmm. They've upgraded the place. It's tremendous, and they're packed.
Yeah. So. Well, and for my friend Luke Copeland, I know he listens to the show, at least on YouTube. We really hope that what gets in that Napa building, because I know he's worked hard to maintain a historical value to it and say an ambiance and a character to that, and I hope that whatever goes in there maintains that and enhances it that much more.
I thought they had somebody going in there. Or did that fall through?
I don't know that it fell through. It's one of those things that, people are looking, and I know Luke has made a lot of personal efforts in making contacts and at least the craft brewery side and all that. So, like I say,
the building looks good.
Absolutely.
I've done a tremendous job.
Yeah.
Well, you look at LJ, just what they've done the last 2 years. I mean, on the weekends and weeknights, there's people are going downtown, and they got all kinds of neat, pretty good little restaurants and what have you there. So hopefully with the golf cart paths and all that'll all help attract more people to downtown. Because on Saturday after about 2 o'clock, there's not a whole lot going on down downtown Jasper. So.
Well, we have, our shops and restaurant in the central business district and even outside of it. They're typically locally owned. And I got kind of tickled a while back. Somebody kind of came out and said, well, if I were king kind of thing, these businesses would be staying open on the weekends and, everything else. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know how you're going to do that because...
Well, I think we already have a king, and I don't think he stays there on the weekends, so I'm not going to go. That's a whole show by itself, so we'll just leave that.
So as much as I would like to see places open later and maybe on Sundays and things like that, I mean, first and foremost, we have to respect the wishes of the business owners.
Well, they got to have some time off, too.
They absolutely do.
Absolutely.
That's it. All right. Well, that kind of covers some of the surveys and some of those issues and some other things. What do you, this is a personal question to you, consider to be the most important to Pickens for the 2016 economic improvement? What do you see? And I mean, because you're looking at industry forums, you're talking to people in other cities and counties. What's your take that we really need to do to make the best improvement?
Well, honestly, I think it really has to start at a national level, and not to get too far from the local issues. But there are some events that are taking place that could, I think, negatively impact the economy overall. And if the economy overall is negatively impacted, then certainly that then impacts us at the local level. So barring anything very disastrous at the federal level or national level, and everything continues on the trend that we're on, I think the best thing that we can do, a lot of it is what we've done. I mean, I'll go back to the downtown alliances transportation enhancement study. That's something that's going to cycle very quickly. That's something that in conversations with people that are looking to invest in our community, I've been able to point to and say, look at what we're doing so that you're making a good investment and your investment will be protected. We also, I think I'm very pleased with the fact that, again, through this Downtown Alliance, we've gotten greater buy-in by existing business owners, property owners, and we've always had a pretty good mix on our Economic Development Council. And for those that are not familiar with that, that is a body that was created when we moved to our current structure with having the economic development position based at the Chamber of Commerce. This was a collaborative effort between the city of Jasper and Pickens County. And that organization is made up of the mayor of Jasper, the chairman of the Board of Commissioners. It's made up of the president of the Chamber of Commerce. We have two development authorities, one in Jasper and one in Pickens County. Both of those chairmen are on that authority or on that council, and they make up the permanent members. Now, everybody with the exception of the president of the Chamber of Commerce then selects an individual from the community to serve on that council. And right now we have the CEO of Amicalola EMC. We have a local developer, and I'll go ahead and say that's Gary Copeland. And you mentioned his son earlier, and they're very involved with development in our community and have been for quite some time. We have a local business owner, Clayton Preble. And then we have, let's see, did I go through 4 already? And then we have Ken Pent, who's a local businessman and business owner. He was instrumental. He actually was one of the guys that started Chart Industries. And he's a very, very smart man, very capable businessman. So we have, I think, very solid leadership in our community directing the course that we want to go in. So I think these things, again, when somebody comes to us, we can point to a lot of things that we have done right so that when they come in and they're risking their capital. And if you look at somebody wanting to do a restaurant, it may be every dime they have, and you're asking them to invest it in our community. So for them to have a sense that we're supportive, we have good people behind them, and we're taking steps to make it even more enticing for people to come in and patronize the business, I think that's a very sound, a very solid foundation for us to build upon in the upcoming year.
Okay. Jim, anything that you have thought about, I know you have, that we could do from your personal standpoint to enhance the economic improvement development in the county?
I just look at the whole area as something that is it's locked in time, and there's a big push that's going to need to be made to improve that. And I look at things like, even downtown Canton or downtown LJ. LJ's old downtown is down there. The new one is up on the hill there. So, we've got the same scenario. Doing it is the problem, because I understand. I live out where Will does, and I realize the problems we've got in our development, especially coming around the corner, coming in and whatever. But it's something that everybody wishes to have what they want since they're living there. I know when I moved there, I had expectations. I went down Jasper Main Street the first time I moved in here, and it was kind of barren when I moved in 15 years ago, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I've seen businesses come and go, and I can empathize with them because the volume is not there to keep them in business. So we've discussed this before. How do you get the volume increased in an area that's restricted an area? I think that's my biggest issue.
Well, and Jim, you raised some really, relevant points. And one of the challenges is that how do we try to get the things that we want without getting the things that we don't want?
True.
So when you look at population growth, for example, right now we have 29,000 people and some change in the county. The city of Canton alone, there's only a couple hundred people difference between those two figures. And our 29,000 people are spread out amongst a much larger area. Mm-hmm. So people go, why does Canton have all that and we don't? Again, you're looking at a population within a given area, and when these chain stores look, for example, to come in, they're looking not only for the population in numbers, they're looking for it within they use a density figure. So they may want 20,000 people within a 10-mile radius of their store. So it's a challenge. So then to answer your question, well, how do you get those people in? Well, tourism is where you do that.
And we've had that discussion
That's
too.
where I was going to go.
Yeah.
And I joke around and I often say, or I have often said in the past, that we have some of the most interesting things that you can't go see because they're privately held. Our traditional industry has been based on marble, either a quarry or a mine, and they're operating, and you just can't flood people in there while you're trying to conduct an industrial activity. So it's been a challenge. I chaired the tourism committee at the chamber a couple of years back, and we went through, and people have done this. It's probably about the 5th rendition of it. But what we walked away with is we have some interesting things that people may want to stop and look at, but not a whole lot that you would build a vacation around. We did incorporate those points of interest into our map that we hand out at the Chamber of Commerce. But what has happened that is moving us forward in a direction that we haven't ever gone to is we have hired a part-time person that's dedicated to tourism. We have created a state-recognized regional visitor information center, and it is in the space between the chamber and 4-H out in the lobby area, and that is a designated visitor center. If you look now on 515 and some other areas, we have the blue tourism signs and arrows directing people to that. So we have a resource now where we can distribute information. And the other advantage of being a regional visitors information center is now our information is distributed throughout the state at the other information centers on a more broad scale than it was before. So we have a lot of marketing efforts now that we haven't had in the past. We're moving from paper over to a website where we're putting out points of interest. One of our initiatives that we're working on completing right now is cataloging all the hiking and walking areas within the community. The hiking areas, we're actually going to go out farther than just Pickens County because it's something that people could center here and then go out towards and come back. So we will catalog those and have those in one repository. And right now, if you do a search on hiking in Pickens County, you might find a few trails on this website, a few trails here, but we're going to pull all that together. So again, what we're doing to improve the tourism and bring more visitors in is focus on the marketing effort. We have somebody that's dedicated to that, which we've never had before, and we have some resources and some directions that we can go in. And we do have a few new things, like the local wineries. I don't know if anybody has been to either some of the ones in Pickens County or Gilmer County, both. We're trying to take more of a regional view on things. But they're tremendous. It's a great way to spend an afternoon and then go eat when you're done. And, of course, eat in Pickens County in the city of Jasper. But we have some new things that we haven't had before. So again, I feel very positive about the direction that we're moving in. Tourism is the way that we will be able to capture those dollars without, again, bringing in a large amount of population, because I don't think any of us want to be the next Gwinnett County. I certainly do not. And one of the phrases that I've been using most recently is, we want new development, but we want measured, impactful new development so that we can have our quality of life, but we can also have the things that we would like to have that we don't now.
Sounds like we need a water park.
We absolutely do.
Touchy subject.
We absolutely do. No, it's really not. It's really not.
And I think this kind of opens it up to something that we've talked about on some other shows. So I want to let Bill espouse, because I think he has a good idea for how to enhance the downtown area and incorporate what he's been a part of on the marble side of it.
Thanks, Will. I don't know if I got a good idea, but I'm glad to hear you say that y'all start the economic development, the Chamber of Commerce, when I start to promote tourism, because I've been complaining about that for 20, 25 years. And but we've talked on previous shows, having electronic billboards or something like that promoting Pickens County. And you look at first thing, you mentioned Delana. What's the first thing that pops in people's mind? Gold.
Right.
They haven't mined gold there in 130 years.
Right.
But people come in on Thursday, spend the weekend, spend the money, go to shops, go to restaurants. They leave Sunday at 2 o'clock.
Right.
And, that's the type of growth I think people wouldn't mind here, because I had a lady at the Planning Commission meeting the other night in regards to the proposed Dollar General at Cove in Grandview.
Mm-hmm.
That her and her husband came down from New York 8 or 9 years ago to visit friends. 3 months later, they bought a house here. They sold their house in New York City. They were like, oh my gosh, this is heaven on earth.
Excellent.
So, that's the type of, the tourism I think is definitely the way to go. So kudos to you for y'all going in that direction. That's what we need.
Yeah, and good or bad, blessed or cursed. Bill and I, in the previous shows we've talked about as we ramped up to the Marble Festival and Jeep Fest, that type of thing. We both travel the state, so I made an act after Bill brought it up. So if I made an active effort to start looking at the tourist, the pamphlet charts and the Hampton Inns that I stay in, this, that, and the other, and saw that vacancy of us highlighting what was coming. And I know I think we had somebody to take over the Marble Fest, and not with 12 months in front of them, but with just a few months. But I hope that we're focused on a structured, strong marketing plan for this coming year, no matter what the weather does. Because if all of downtown were open at the same time, if it's raining, there's still a lot of shopping that can be done. And kind of Bill had something else there.
Well, you
maybe a question more than a comment.
Well, no, it's more of a comment more than anything to concur what you and I were talking about. That we both travel, and the Sheriff's Jeep Fest is 4 or 5 years old, and now it's and I was in Savannah, and one of my customers was like, oh yeah, you live in Jasper? Oh, I had a friend of mine was up there last weekend at the Jeep Fest. Yeah. And the Marble Festival's 35 years old, and you go around and people are like, the what, where, who, what, when, why, how. And it's like, all right, there's a problem.
Yeah. And from all of our standpoints, we feel like, and it's just the new world, whether we're talking about politics or what we're talking about here.
Social media.
It's social media. I mean, that's the key. So I'm glad we've got somebody, even if it's part-time, in that position, because a lot of times a part-time person, if they're savvy in it, they can do so much more than print could ever do in today's world. So.
No, I agree. And the social media and the electronic means of disseminating information really has been a great thing for us, because, again, just like the other aspects we talked about earlier, we have very limited budgets that we're working within. So to go out and print tens of thousands of brochures is expensive. But putting something out on your Facebook site is very inexpensive. And this is how the younger people operate anyway. I mean, they are a paperless generation. But I agree. And let's touch on the events for a while. We had a conversation about the Marble Festival, and it is something that is, ingrained in a lot of tradition here. And you go, well, how can you improve it? How can you reach a broader audience? How can you make it more appealing? And I think there's ways. But certainly, if people have ideas, I mean, call the chamber president, Denise Duncan. Call me. I mean, my door is always open. And if I'm not on my other phone, I answer the phone. So I'm wide open to ideas. But I think there's things that we can do there. And I also think, though, that the Jeep Fest is a fantastic, wonderful. I can't say enough about the Jeep Fest, and I can't say enough about the potential of it. I get very excited. Because if you think of Harley Davidsons, what do people think of? Sturgis, Yeah. I think we can fill that niche. I think Jeeps are the right fit for Jasper and Pickens County. when you go back to the traditional or Jasper Jeep and all the marketing that they've done in Atlanta, typically if somebody's heard of Jasper, what do they know? They know Jasper Jeep, and they may know the Bargain Barn. So, guns and Jeeps, there we go, right? So we have, I think we have some things that we can really that we can build on.
And now Rocco's Pub.
And Rocco's Pub, absolutely.
And now we got a hamburger bus.
I saw it in Baltimore.
Yeah, got the burger bus south of us.
And so a free plug. Is there anything happening at the Bargain Barn this weekend, Bill, by any chance?
There's a gun class, I believe, NRA gun class Saturday, excuse me. Yeah, Saturday morning.
And is there any openings you think left in that class?
2 or 3.
All right. So if somebody wanted to sign up for that, how would they do that?
With this short notice, best thing to do is bring check in hand and just show up.
And what time?
9:30.
All right. Okay. All right.
Excellent.
It'll be all day, and there'll be a live shooting at the range.
There you go. And it should be perfect weather for it, too. Should be perfect weather for it. Well, I'll just throw out, and, we like doing this on the show. Sometimes we've done it for education where we just said, what a concept. But take this concept. Probably can't do it in 2016, but 2017 will be here before us old guys know it. Mm-hmm. We take the downtown area that we can manage to close off for car shows and everything from Church Street north, and totally have all of the vendors set up on that part of Main Street. We divert the traffic from up above the Woodbridge to the back street, and don't let vendors and all use that for parking. That'd be the thoroughfare for traffic to be diverted north and south, and that way Church Street is open for the throughway. Have vendors on the south side of Main Street, and then we park down D.B. Carroll with a golf cart that brings people up to the Main Street, and we park over near the voting precinct building, and we utilize that parking. We have carts going back and forth. And we don't use the park. We use our downtown and have something in every building, if it's open or if it's vacant. Lease it out for the month and have something in there. What do you think? That's my pitch.
I think it's a good idea. That's where we used to have the Marble Festivals downtown.
Yeah.
Is the Woodbridge happy with that?
He would be happy because he books out every room and his restaurant's full all the time.
Right.
And he knows how to grill.
What
So
am I
he can set up and sell brats all day and all night long.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure you can do plate specials. No problem. Hans is good at that. So, David, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's a good idea, and
You want to reserve your tent now, right?
I think Will ought to champion that for the rest of the 6 months coming up here.
Well, we can make it I've got my list of other things to
what's
champion.
Jerry going to do?
He's going to implement it. I'm just going to champion it.
I was just going to sign you up to be chairman of the committee.
All right.
Will, you sold me.
I already gave money to the chamber for another year, so I guess I'm in for it. So I'm actually looking forward to our January breakfast. I understand we're going to have a conversation about some committees and some new things that Denise and the group are talking about bringing online. So.
Yes, there are a lot of initiatives that, again, I think will be very beneficial. And the other thing, again, keep in mind, there's so many opportunities for involvement that, and I know I don't want to get too far ahead of the program, Will, but, there are some great opportunities for people within our community to become involved and therefore then change the direction or help influence the direction of our community, and we need that. I mean, we need more young people stepping up, getting ready to take those leadership roles, and the chamber and some of the committees, I think is one of the best ways that they can do that. And no matter what your interest is, trust me, there is some organization within our community that can utilize your interest and your talents to the betterment of the community. So again, let me know when you're ready to sign up to hit that one up.
Ooh, all right.
And bring your friends.
Yeah, and the same thing on the chamber
Doesn't
side.
have any friends you can make.
The amount of information they have to disseminate and then turn around to the public. If it wasn't for volunteerism, there's no way they could do all the jobs that are under those categories. So any citizens that want to participate and be a part, what's the best way for them to get involved at the chamber?
Well, they certainly can call. They could ask for me specifically. There are several people at the chamber. The young lady that answers the phone, Melinda, is a great source of generalized information. There's a lot of information out on the website. They can go to and they can look and see what the different committees are that are there. And if somebody just wanted to see what it was about, I mean, I always stress one of the best events on an ongoing basis are our chamber breakfasts that take place the second Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock at Chattahoochee Tech. You don't have to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce to attend. We do strongly encourage that you call ahead of time and make a reservation. It's $15. And I think people that have not attended those chamber breakfasts will really be impressed with the turnout, and that it's a great way to connect to your community and your elected officials and business leaders. So when we have somebody coming into our community and they join the chamber, I always say, if you're going to attend one event this month or on a regular basis, make it the chamber breakfast, because it does have such a great turnout and a great opportunity for networking.
Right. And for those people in the community that are retired, or maybe they're not internet savvy and they have to go to the library to use the computer, what's the primary or the main phone number there at the chamber that they would call?
706-692-5600. And again, they can speak with Melinda. They can ask for me, Jerry. Usually the chamber president is running around taking care of 1,001 different things. But certainly Denise, if she has the time, is always receptive to speaking with people.
All right. And if they are computer savvy and have the ability to get on, how's the information, if they want to go on that way, how's that posted? What's that email or the website?
It's PickenSChamber.com, and there's also a Facebook page, and those would be the two main sources of information. And then once you're a chamber member, you do get things sent directly to you. But those would be the best sources for people just wanting to find information.
Yeah, and in all candor, I am a private member as a citizen. I'm a member of the chamber. This is started my third year, and it has been a wealth of information for me. The email information comes through. Been able to attend. Primarily, I've been to the breakfast. Have not been to a lot of after the cocktail hours and business after hours type thing. But there are events always listed on the chamber website. Whether you're a morning person and, bypass Bojangles at 7 a.m., guys, go to the chamber and have breakfast there once a month.
There you go.
And in the afternoons and stuff, lay off Rocco's one night and head over to a business after hours event and meet some other people and see what there is to chamber that can benefit you and your groups. A couple of things, we're getting close on time, but I still want to touch on a couple of other things. From a standpoint, and I work for a Fortune 250 company, and actually, when we were looking for a facility in Georgia, we were looking for space and going to be doing some manufacturing. The one thing that I didn't find as I started looking to send it to our corporate office was kind of an average price per square foot for the commercial property in Pickens County, and then also real estate tied to the chamber website that was available. And my company made a decision. They went to Clayton County and bought down there, much to my disgrin, because I still have to go there, and I hate going down to Clayton County. Nice people, but not a good place to leave your truck. But they got a 38,000 square foot building there, and after 1 year, we're looking at another 30,000 square foot building adjacent, and it's just distribution and that type of thing. So,
right.
What's that average commercial per square foot price if we have it, and what do we have to tie the available real estate, especially commercially, on the site?
The rate is something that is not captured and cataloged. What you find is a lot of property owners are a little bit reluctant to put numbers out in general figures, so it's more of a case-by-case type basis. And again, being not having a dog in that fight, I don't really press that issue. Now, if somebody needs a comp or a rate or something like that, I can generally get that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
So I will be glad to do that. as far as just the property that we post on our website, typically what I try to do is put the information where it's either a site or a building that is suitable for an industrial prospect. Commercial retail, just because of the sheer volume and the fact that I'm just one person, I don't catalog that and put that on my website, but I do have a portal for any property that is listed. I can pull up the information and I get a report once a week about available properties within the county. So I am aware generally and in pretty good detail about commercial and retail properties that are available. But again, what we actually post are the sites and buildings that are suitable for industrial prospects, and that's typical within most communities.
Okay. So, and just so we give it and make sure you go slow and spell it out and stuff, please, if you would give your email, so if as we put this out on YouTube and it gets out posted on the other sites, if somebody wanted to reach out to you electronically and start looking, how would they do it?
Sure, I'll be glad to. My direct email is economic development. It's all one word and it's all lowercase. So it's economicdevelopment@pickenschamber.com. And that does come directly to me.
Perfect. Easy. All right. Well, I want to run into some things and stuff just as we're getting close to stuff. Just notes from this month's events. I want to many thanks to all the sponsors, Dan and his team here at Rocco's Pub, the Pickens County 4-H Safe Team, the Georgia Carry Organization, which is a grassroots Second Amendment group, and the Ted Cruz for President group, David Eisenheim, for being here with us this on Monday, December 7th, for our hopefully first annual Second Amendment giveaway here at Rocco's Pub and Grill. We were able, from proceeds, we're able to present the 4-H Safe Team with a $250 donation for those young people, and we'll be presenting a 2016 PHS Pickens High School graduate with a $500 scholarship from those proceeds from the sale. We'll have essay rules that'll be available in mid-January, and Miss Whitfield at the high school, who handles all the scholarships, will be handling all those essay entries and that type of thing for us. Upcoming shows, Tuesday, December 22nd, next Tuesday, be here at Rocco's again, doing a show with 4 of our local charities to discuss 2015 and what they plan for 2016. On with us will be Gina Penley with Georgia Mountain Hospice, Christy Cale-Bone with the Special Olympics, Larry Starr with our local CARES organization, and Carol Maddox with the Good Samaritan Health Clinic. So I'm really looking forward to that show and highlighting the good work that our charities do locally for our community. Almost all volunteerism, and just a phenomenal organization. So look forward to that. Tuesday, December 29th, the show will be here again, and I'll have Dr. Bert Loftman on with us to discuss the 2016 upcoming election year with his in-depth analysis of the candidates and where they stand on important issues. So, and again, Jerry, thank you very much for being on with us tonight. And I hope to have you back again. I'd like to have you back on the show, and as we get closer and have some other major events upcoming that the Chambers is going. Is there anything that Chamber events that you like to bring up that we've got coming, say, Kings and Queens and that type of thing?
Yeah, and the Winter Ball is the Chamber's key event that's up and coming. The mountain or the Mardi Gras on the Mountains is actually sponsored by another organization, although we do have involvement with it, and that serves a great cause, and the community can get involved with that. Even if they just want to make a donation to our King and Queen, that would be a great benefit because it helps us win the competition, plus it helps the charity, the Mountain Hospice that it supports. So the best thing for people to do, again, is go to the Chamber website or the Facebook page, take a look at everything that's up and coming. There's a wide variety, and I feel confident they can find something within our community that will capture their interest.
Great. Thank you. David, thank you for being on again.
Thank you.
Bill Cagle, thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Jim Harris, thank you for being on.
Last again, I appreciate that.
And again, I want to thank our sponsor, the North Georgia Young Republican Group from University of North Georgia and Brenau College, and as always, our host station, WYYZ. Thank you.